What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Skinny Moose, and I brought on the owner of RPW, Chris
What's going on, guys?
Collenberg. So, let's go ahead and kick it off. What made you start RPW?
I actually did not start RPW. I ended up having a friend of mine named Mitch Reed started RPW. I was kind of like his right hand man. Um, when we first started out, we were first like planning the shows and stuff. And he ended up having some illness in his family, and we had worked really hard on setting the shows up and stuff. And he was like, there was like a crew of like four of us that were working on it. And he was like, somebody's gonna have to step up, or we're just gonna have to let this thing die. So I ended up being like, well, I'll do it. And then here I am still now. So I didn't start it, I didn't name it, but I have been running it since pretty much the second show on.
Oh, hell yeah. So, which King of the Kill was better in your opinion, the first or the second one?
That's a hard decision, man. You're asking me to talk about my babies. There's stuff I really like about both. I waited a few years to do my first tournament because it's a big undertaking. And I wanted to wait till I could do it properly and do it
Yeah.
up to the standard I really wanted. So I'm very proud of the first one just because, I took a couple years to get to it and ended up exceeding my expectations. But then again, so did this last one as well. Um, I thought I like them both, but I'm gonna have to say the second one just because it's so much closer. It's so much newer in my memory. It wasn't that long ago.
I feel you on that. Like, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but the first one was good. I mean, we had Tommy Vendetta and Joe Bateman with the dry ice spot. The second one, we had Tommy Vendetta get actually shirtless by Slack. I think that's the first time I've actually seen Tommy shirtless in a death match. Maybe
Uh,
once before, but it
he he does that
I
now
can't
because it pisses y'all off.
I
Like
I
that
can't
didn't used to be a thing with him.
I can't complain. I enjoyed what you put together. I enjoy all your shows. Like the Mania Weekend show has probably been one of my favorites in a while. I cannot pronounce it, but
Thank you.
it was on point.
Yes,
It was on point. Let's see. We got a comment. Skinny Moose in the. I guess that's supposed to be house.
in the he's
In
you're
the
in the
he's. I'm not for sure what that means.
you're in the house. I believe she's using youngin slang. You're in the house.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Uh, what was it like having Pearl on your show at one time?
Um, you're talking about the Harpo show. Pero was very cool. That was a show we were doing with another promotion that's no longer around anymore called No Peace Underground. Pero was a big part of their company, so we both sent in our own people into this thing, kind of collaborate on it. So I didn't work a whole lot directly with Pero on the booking end of it, but I was who was the boots on the ground running the show. The other promoter stayed in Florida. So when I was working with him directly at the show, he was very cool, very professional. We chit chat about some other stuff that was non wrestling. We got along real well. I have nothing but good things to say about the guy, but then again, I've only been around him once, so.
I've never got a chance to actually sit down and talk to Pero or interview Pero. But yeah, I really like Pero's work. I like what he has to offer, and I think he's over there in GCW, if I'm not mistaken.
It kind of bounces around.
Moose, I made that. Oh, my fault, Mackenzie. I'm sorry.
You're about to lose
Uh,
fans, bro.
don't hate me. Don't hate me. I'm misgendered. I'm always doing that damn shit. So, do you have a favorite match that you've booked so far?
Boy. Um, maybe there's 4 years of matches, but one that stands out recently in my mind was the Drake Younger MM3 match. That one, like even the behind the scenes of it meant a lot. Like Drake has known MM3 since he was a baby. He used to work with his dad, DBA, in Detroit.
Oh
So
shit.
like it was like a long history between the two. And to finally get to work together, they hadn't worked together at that point. and they have very comparable styles. Like, they're both very hybrid wrestlers. They both could do high flying. They do mat wrestling. They're very versatile. So I knew it would be a good like clashing of styles, like because they're pretty comparable. And I was really happy with how it turned out. I thought it was a really cool match. I thought it had a real good build to it. I thought there was a lot of good storytelling even within the match of itself. So I would have to go with that as of recently. If I'm not talking about, I'm going to leave the tournaments out of it because those are kind of a different animal,
I feel that. That match still gets talked about to this day, obviously, as you know, and that and there's another one that sticks out to me. I think it was I know Slack was in it. It was the Danny Havoc match that you had at Mania weekend. Fuck. Uh, I
Oh,
can't
that
remember who
was with
Slack
Clinton
was though.
Rogera.
Yes, yes. I like when you bring in your international boys. Well, I like international boys in general, but yes, it's probably one of my favorite matches that you've done here recently.
We got a couple
Uh,
international guys on the next one. We got Sakuda coming in from Japan, and we got Lou Nixon coming in from the UK for our next Chicago
Big
show.
Lou's about to fight Tommy Vendetta again, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So yes, that's gonna be good. That build up though, that I love how like these boys can get in there and build this shit up.
Mhm.
Um, where did you have where did you come up with the idea to have a show at a skate park?
Um, so every year we kind of want to do something like kind of off the wall and fun and different. Like this year was when we went down to the POR stunt compound. Um,
I like
that one kind of, I was rattled around trying to figure out what to do, and there was a guy up here who suggested I check this place out. And I ended up getting a hold, or he gave me the owner's information. I ended up getting a hold of him. And then I went in there and I started seeing like the setup, and I was like, I could just vision in my mind how it could be fun and how it was going to go. So it was one of those things where I was on the fence about it until I got in there. I was like, yeah, it's a kind of a cool idea. And I was on the fence until I got in there and I saw the space and I was like, oh, we can have some fucking fun in here. So it just kind of came around organically. Like a buddy of mine was definitely involved a little bit. Just give me like, hey, my buddy owns this place. You should just check it out. It might be something cool. But he was under the impression I would go stick a ring in there. And I was like, no, fuck that. I'm not sticking a ring in there. I'm just going to have them jumping off these ramps and shit, you know?
that. That shit was fucking awesome. I love that. I love that. That was really worth it. Mackenzie said, well, let me get this off the screen. When you book shows, do you book the matches themselves or do you book the winner and give the workers free reign?
It's a bit of both. There's obviously storyline beats I need to get in. There's like we do a lot of long term storytelling, and there's got to be parts and things that need to get incorporated to make sure that works properly. And we also make sure that like we got to go through everybody's match to make sure that like people aren't going to be doing the same spots. Like if one guy's doing something special or certain, they can't have it happen again, or it's going to be stupid. So, but aside from that, I don't really get too crazy with micromanage them. I kind of let them do their thing, but there's just some certain things that need to make sure to happen to make sure that things go forward accordingly, and that the things I'm setting up for a show or three down the road are set up for properly, so that those matches matter.
I respect that. You don't, yeah, that's something that you don't see in RPW. You never see the same thing twice. So
Yeah.
that's something that you get with Chris. What is the worst injury or the major ones that you've ever seen?
Well, knock on wood. Luckily, we've only had one real injury that was, not beyond that was beyond like stitches or something. We've usually been able to maintain a pretty safe environment with how crazy we got, but it was actually in a non-death match. It was Justin Kyle versus Sam Beal, and Justin Kyle went to spear Sam. Like Justin was outside the ring and went to spear Sam through the ropes into the ring, and it was just a freak accident. When he came down, on Sam's elbow and his eye socket, and it floored his orbital wall. So it like cracked the bone underneath it, and his eyeball fell into his skull. And that happened halfway through the match, and he still did the whole fucking match. We didn't even know he was hurt till he got backstage. But even, I mean, to test how tough that son of a bitch is, He loves kids, so even as he was getting out of the ring and he's holding his belt up, he won the belt that match. There was a small child in the front row, and he made sure to stop and put the belt over his shoulder and take a picture with him. But the second he came through the curtain, he collapsed, and we're like, "What the fuck is going on?" And then we saw what
Shit.
was up, and he ended up having to wear like one of those Cody Road masks for a while to
Oh yeah.
protect his eyes. His eye socket, like the the orbital wall under here, like his eye was falling into his skull. Aside
That's what
from
I was
that,
getting ready to say.
nothing but just like some cuts. I mean, there's a lot of blood in our matches and stuff, but we've been really lucky with no real bad injuries to this point. Thank God.
That's what I was getting ready to say is that I match and the other one's got to be fucking Otis and Hardway either when Otis
Yeah, there's
played
that
his
too.
arm. Dude,
That was
that was
if you watch
intense.
the video footage of that, I was actually the first one to see it because I was by the door and the crowd was all on the other side of him and they hit him with the tube and I watched it actually open up and you can see my face, my eyes just like oh.
Oh
And
fuck.
Otis was actually yelling at me to not call the match, but I mean after seeing that I was like fuck this, that guy's got to go to the hospital and he ended up going. So
Yeah, you kind
technically
of
that was
have
cool.
to.
He got a lot of stitches. He had to get internal stitches on that and they had to cauterize some arteries. But what was really crazy is like if you watch the spot, they weren't doing anything wild. It was just an unlucky tube shot. Like he just hit him on the side with one tube, and it split his whole shit open.
I mean that the build up. I replayed that part like 10 times, and it happened so fast.
Hmm.
Like anybody could have done it. That's the bad thing. Like it's just one single tube, and if you don't really pay attention, you wouldn't even know it happened until you seen Otis like fucking basically, his arm, and I'm like, what happened? So I replayed it, and I'm like, what's around this light tube to do it this bad? And all I seen was one single light tube, and it's just like
That was just
whack,
one
but
tube.
it just. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean it's not happened up to that point. It hasn't happened since. Was just unfortunately an unlucky swing, I guess. It just hit him at just the right angle, and I mean it really opened him up. It was pretty fucking gnarly when we were backstage, and he took it like a G. He was fine. He wasn't panicking or anything. Luckily, Atticus was there backstage too. Be like, oh yeah, you're good, bro. Like, so we ended up sending him to the hospital. We got taken care of. Put some money together for him to help out with that. And yeah, I mean, so technically two.
Too, yeah. I mean, yeah, too, because I know that dry ice spot had to hurt, but I don't think it's too bad. I mean, like, I bet you they felt it worse. Would you ever bring up any of the boys from TPW or IWA Deep South guys?
I'm not very familiar with TPW. Yeah, there's some of the IW guys, the Deep South guys, I would use. No, I'm not gonna go ahead and throw names out there though, because then my inbox starts blowing up, and that's gonna
Yeah, I
cause me a
understand that.
headache. But no, there's some good guys down there. I mean, we've already used once. God, I can't the Nathan Mowry. I believe he
Yeah.
works with them, doesn't he?
No, he works for TWE and Chattanooga, yeah,
Oh,
I think it's
Chattanooga. Okay.
Chattanooga, Tennessee. We got like Brant Woods down there, Blaine Evans, Little Sicko, Tommy Trainwreck. Well, he just came onto the roster.
We have
Cato.
we have Tommy on our next show, and we're
Yes,
working
I am
on.
stoked for that. I am stoked for that.
Yeah, he's gonna
Um,
wrestle Remington.
well, IWA Deep South has a lot of guys that's been through it, but as far as our main one was, we got like Brian White, Jay Blade, Bryant Woods, Little Sicko, Schizo, and then we got some that just fall in place. Like we have Cougar, who's going to be there this year at Carnage Cup. We got Mickey Knuckles. We got a bunch of them that stay. We don't really have a big roster, but we got
Yeah,
some that come and go. So
I've spent a lot of free time with Hardcore Hillbilly. I'll tell you what, he's a blast to drink with.
Hardcore. I talk to the body all the time, and the body always gives a good word for hardcore. I've never heard anybody give hardcore a bad name.
I'm
And
not talking
that
about
boy,
hardcore from Buffalo. I'm talking about Hardcore Hillbilly.
yes, they always
Okay,
he always the body
because there's the
always
other wrestler, Hardcore, who's a
gives
completely
him.
different person.
Yeah, I normally call him hillbilly just so
Yeah, yeah,
because when I refer to my wife or my partner, they're like you talk about hardcore, and I'm like, no, not that hardcore hillbilly. So we decided to call him hillbilly. But
yeah.
yeah, I've never heard
That guy's a
anybody say
blast.
anything bad about him. Honestly,
I could listen to that guy read the fucking Bible all day or the phone book. Like that guy is entertaining and charismatic, and no matter what he does. I did fall down a nice long rabbit hole of when I found Slap Mountain on YouTube, which was like the IWA Deep South slap fight shit. I watched like all that shit in like 2 days. I was sending it to my
so
friends.
tell you, I got mentioned in a comment last night. Well, Kevin Branner, the owner of Deep South, has want me to
Yeah,
get in a slap fight with um, Cowboy Troy. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And he told Kevin, he said, you better hope this boy has insurance or something to that effect. I'm like, you better have a baseball glove because once this old man puts his hands on me, I'm going to knock him out of that ring. Yeah, I thought about commenting, you may be a cowboy and rope horses, but you ain't ever roped a moose, old man.
where does the nickname Skinny Moose come from?
Okay, so one night I was sitting at the table chilling with my wife at the old house. She just looks at me because we're all needing like YouTube names. Because when I first started YouTube, it was back in like 2016, and everybody had like names,
Yeah,
and that was a dip channel. Well, then I started the YouTube channel. I was like, I gotta have a name. Next thing I know, she looks at me and she goes, "You're Skinny Moose." Wait, what? What the fuck? And she calls up my Japanese buddy, our buddy, and that's her translator. And she goes, "You're Chubby Chipmunk." And then she calls my partner, which is my cousin, and goes, "You're Fat Squirrel." I'm like, "Where's all these names coming from?" Well, about a few months down the road, she looks at me, she goes, "You know where Skinny Moose and Fat Squirrel come from, right?" No, besides I'm native, so some of us natives get spiritual names.
yeah.
She's like, well, not only that, but supernatural, moose and squirrel. Fuck
Like the
you,
show
Sam and
Supernatural.
Dean. Yeah, Sam and Dean. Oh God, she is a fanatic over Jensen Ackles and Jarrett Palacky. Oh my God, like she cannot live without them.
I've seen a few episodes of it. It's not bad. The very first episode of that show takes place in my hometown.
Oh, that's cool as fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing we got really good down here where I'm from in Kentucky is like 30 minutes away from me. We got John Michael Montgomery where he's from. So
Okay.
I've been calling hardcore the man they call hardcore. So hard to research
You know
hardcore.
what I call him?
That's true.
His real legit first name is Dick, so I call him Hardcore Dick.
I thought it was true.
No, it's Dick.
Slap Mountain, yes.
They need to
I'm
bring Slap
really
Mountain back. I was telling Hillbilly that he's like, "Well, boss, I'm not good at slapping people, but I can take a hit."
that man can take a fucking blow. That man can take a blow.
Yeah,
Hardcore hillbilly sister. I felt so bad. I didn't even know Hardcore had a sister. His girl. Yes, Mackenzie. LOL. Don't you start. That's who gave me the name Miss Carrie. So,
all right.
um, who is some workers that you want to book that's never been in RPW?
That's a good question. I mean, the easy ones to say are like Takeda and Jun Kasai. I mean, they're the best over there overseas. Always wanted to get them in there. Um,
Fuck.
I've had my eye on this cat down from Texas. Goes by Stud Stash. I think is interesting. Um, always wanted to get a Nick Gage match under my belt. Everyone's got to have a gauge bet match.
Uh,
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 I tried really hard to get Scotty Vortex to come back for one with Drake. That ended up falling through. I always wanted to get one with Scotty. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Ruben Steele would have been awesome, Kenzie. But he
yes,
he
Ruben
kind of
still.
just disappeared after that injury. I was talking about we had a guy I used to use that goes by Matthias Thrasher, and they both had kind of a similar vibe. I was going to team them up as like a deathmatch tag team, and they're like the Thrasher jackets and all that, with the patchwork jackets and all that shit. But he ended up getting that injury, and then I don't think he's ever came back since. Would love to use Slade too.
He didn't tell you that there's a longer story to his name. That's just a short story. Yeah, well, we ain't gonna sit here all night and explain this story that's gonna take literally 2 to 3 days.
I ain't got that kind of
Um,
time. I got barbecue.
yeah, we ain't got that kind of time. He works, and I have other interviews, and then on top of that, if everything goes as planned, I'll have him come back. But I might be able to get you Decatur because my translator he got Decatur for an interview, and Decatur wanted to come to Deep South. So I'll talk to my boy and see if he can get Takeda to message you, and
That'd be cool.
y'all can work it out from there.
Yeah, I mean we've had a decent amount of the Japanese guys through. It's the second time we're gonna be using Sakudo. We've had Abdullah Kobayashi. I mean
Kobayashi.
that guy was
That's
a
my
trip.
uncle's favorite.
That man's a human cartoon character.
Yes. So I think we done talked about this, but what was going through your mind when Hardway Heather sliced Otis's arm open?
Like I said, Otis wanted to keep going, but I did not want him to because I knew it would make it much much worse. I didn't want to split any further, and I didn't actually know it looked deep and it looked bad, and I was like, no match is really
Yes.
worth this. We got more matches coming up. Fuck this. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, there was a bit of a panic at because like I said, I was the first to see it because when he turned around and it got hit, it was facing me, and I watched it because it went from a trickle of blood to just like split open. I was like, holy shit. Um, so I was kind of freaking out a little bit. Then we got him backstage. Uh, we started checking it out. Uh, saw that like, there was no main artery cut or anything. I mean, you had the like the cartilage and shit was split, so it looked pretty rough. But the boys backstage all looked at it. We had a nurse there check out it. We just had him. We wrapped him up and just sent him right to the hospital. And after like seeing that he was fine and everything was fine, it was fine. And I talked to his wife. Made sure she was okay. And I was like, when you guys get to the hospital, here's my phone number. I gave it to her to get a hold of me to make sure everything was fine because I figured he'd be in there getting stitched up and wouldn't be able to be on his phone too much. She got a hold of me later that night, like, yo, he's fine. He got I forget the number of stitches, but it was a lot. It was like between 40 and 60, I think. It was
I
a lot.
thought I thought altogether he got over 100, maybe 75 or something like that
It might have been.
altogether,
It was
inside
a
and
lot.
out.
They did a bunch that were internal too.
Yeah, that was fucking. I mean, I respect you for stopping it. It's just the type of wrestling is deathmatch. We really don't need to put the death match into a death match.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things where I mean like things get gnarly at our shows, but we try to do it in a way where our guys will walk away at fine. And I will always put their health before a match.
I respect that. Decatur is a single father, gives the KS the issue. We could probably get Decatur over here. Do you have Do you have a favorite show you have ever ran? If so, why?
Um I would have to say Miasma, the last one we did with Mania Weekend, simply because it was such a buffet of talent I normally wouldn't be able to use. I mean, we had several countries represented. Guys from New Zealand, we had guys from Australia and the UK and Japan. And over here, all on one show. So it was like kind of like a super show. And it was
Uh,
guys that normally I would have to get an international flight to use, but a lot of times around Mania weekend, these guys start showing up because they know that they'll get on good bookings and all that. So it all kind of lined up good for me. And I was really happy with how the show turned out. We ended up selling out the event. Um, you know, that one had some problems going into it, but I think we pivoted and worked well with it. Like Tommy ended up getting concussed the night before from a chair shot, and then Ricky Shane Page like fucked his ankle up really bad the day of, so he couldn't wrestle. So we had to switch it on a pivot. And Jake Christ got injury going into it, and he couldn't wrestle, so we ended up having to put that off to the Chicago show, our last Chicago show. So a lot of that happened within the span of a couple days, and I was still able to pivot the show, and I think it really worked out well, and I was very happy with it.
That's probably one of my most favorite shows that you've ran so far of all of them. I really enjoyed that, and
Thank you.
all of it went together so well. Like you made it work just so like a puzzle. You pieced it all together perfectly. And if you would have never said anything, I would have never realized that the show didn't come out how you planned. But you still made the show even better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I'm real good at like when a no shit moment happens, is be like, all right, give me just an hour or two, let me fucking turn my wheels, and we'll figure something out, you know. And
that
we had to do a lot of it for that show.
yes, I respect that. So, what is a dream death match for you to book? Like an absolute dream, from stipulations to workers to whatever.
I'd like to do, man. I'm assuming this is stuff that is probably they're probable that can be done, right? Like I can't use
I
guys
mean,
in
you're the
the past.
promoter here, so
Um,
you're the promoter.
I'd like to do Jun Kasai and Schlack in the U.S.
Ooh, ooh, damn.
I think that would be gnarly as fuck. I would give them a lot of glass panes, um, a lot of tubes. You know, I'd really zest that one up.
If he would ever come out of retirement, I would like to see Signet Mondo and Slack go at it.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to come out of retirement. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah,
That's just not happening.
yeah, he's not.
And
He's too big. I think he's over there in Hollywood right now.
yeah, he's a stunt man, and he does a lot of film work too, and like camera operations. If you ever seen the movie, The Trade, he made, it's very good about deathmatch wrestling and his whole experience in deathmatch wrestling. You should check that out sometime. I think you could watch it on Tubi for free. But
I go ahead. Sorry.
he, I don't think what he was doing in deathmatch was fulfilling for him to himself. I think he's done much better for himself not being involved in it. And as selfish and much as I would like to see it myself, I think he's better off not, because he's doing so well outside of it. You know, he was one of those
I
guys. I
respect that.
mean, if you really look at it, he was only around a couple years, and we're still talking
Yeah,
about it today. So I mean, he was a bottle rocket. He went up fast and then popped, and that was it. You know.
yeah. He's like the wife beater.
Hmm.
Wife beater was only in it like 4 years, five at the most. I think it was four, and then he just poofed be gone. I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, a lot of times
Ruben
too,
Steele.
these people get older, they get families. It's not conducive to, for long term with a lot of these guys. You know.
And it takes a lot out of you being a wrestler, but I've heard that, of course you can see it with your own two eyes. Death matches is going to take way more out of you because of what you're doing in that stipulations and stuff.
Yeah, but you're not even accounting into the travel of it too. I mean, a lot of there's the show, but a lot of these guys are spending 10 hours driving to get there and 10 hours back, all beat up, and that beats the shit out of you too. I mean,
Yeah, and
or
then
jumping on a flight, or all this shit. You know.
or you're on a flight. Imagine, well, you should know how long they spend away from their families, and
Hmm.
it's a lot that takes on to be a wrestler or do whatever. So, have you ever thought about bringing Masada back or bringing in JD Hort or Michael Cougar?
Um. Yeah. All of those. Yeah. Um. Masada's trickier, um, just because he's very selective and he ain't cheap. like,
Yeah, I understand that.
uh,
I understand the money. Yeah,
no, but I mean, yeah, I mean, I've considered all those guys. I mean, we have had Masada before. We had him in that 3-way or 4-way.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think you've only had him like once or twice, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah, like I noticed that like a lot of the older legends, they don't come cheap. They come fucking.
Well, and they
But
shouldn't. You know, they've earned it.
yeah, after everything they've been through, and they've basically how long they put their body in it, and half of them, I not only age but what they put their body through, they deserve more than they get, and I respect that.
Yeah,
So, who's your favorite international guy that you've seen wrestle so far?
like in person or just that I enjoyed watching.
Both.
Um, I mean, it's going to be Takeda.
Takeda.
Yeah,
Takeda.
I was at NGI 3, where Takeda was in that. So I mean, I have seen him live, and I saw him wrestle out with Cologne and some other folks. Like I've seen him live, and I follow his career on as much as I can, over here. Yeah, I think Takeda's great.
I love Takeda. So, ha- have you or do you plan on taking RPW coast to coast?
Yeah, we're gonna hit a lot of new markets next year, real fast. There's gonna be, I mean, we already announced, or I made mention that we're gonna be out in Vegas for Mania weekend. We already got that all set up.
Oh
We're gonna be
shit!
announcing very soon two more new states that we're gonna be debuting in. Both of those will be like at the beginning of next year. And then we got some other stuff in the works and maybe something international if I can make it work. We're working on it. So,
I
but
like
yeah,
the
we're gonna be in
ideas
a
of
lot
that.
more places next year. We're gonna be running a lot more frequently um, coming up. Like we were going for bi-monthly, but the way that this next year is planning out, like it's turning out to be a lot more frequent than that.
That's one of my questions: is do you eventually plan on running more monthly shows or more regular shows? That was one of my questions. So
You
you
know,
just answered that.
it started out that way. When I the first 2 years we did one every month, um,
Um,
but
but
it got to the point where like I don't have a large team. I have a very close team of guys that I really trust. I've been burned a couple times trusting the wrong people, so I'm very hard now to gain my trust and let you into the fold. And we got to source all these weapons. We got to do all this stuff to make sure and it becomes a lot monthly because I also work 2 full-time jobs.
oh, I
So
know you worked one, but I
yeah,
wasn't.
well, the other one's not full time. I shouldn't say that. Like during the day, I cook at a high end steak restaurant, and at night I'm on a food truck.
So
Um,
you're a chef.
yeah, I have a culinary degree.
Fuck yeah!
Um,
Let's go over there to Chris's house and eat.
I'll cook you up some stuff. I got my
Fuck
smokers
yeah!
going right now. I got some country ribs, some barbecue ribs. I got a bunch of peppers on there. I'm making some hot sauce later. I got some sausage I made up earlier this morning. I'm about to be a feast later on with some friends.
Shit, let's go over there, y'all.
Hey, you only got to make it up to Toledo. It's not too far, right?
What? Where Toledo? Where?
Ohio. We're up
Oh
like,
fuck, that's what I was talking about too. That's where I got family up there, so let's go.
all
My
right.
wife's from there. My grandmother's actually from Champaign,
Okay.
uh, Urbana. So I'm not really too associated with Ohio, but I'll go to Ohio. Hell yeah. So, what is the bloodiest match that you've ever seen or booked so far?
Um, the Hoodfoot versus Pondo got real bloody. That's where Pondo or Hoodfoot got the squirter out of his forehead.
Mm.
That was at the first deathmatch circus we did with ICW. Um, Man, Hoodfoot also again versus Tommy Vendetta in Chicago at Code Orange was very bloody. Um, anytime I put Schlack in there, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Slack Conductor Redacted.
Redacted gets a lot of color too. I think that's because I think it helped. Like, I've noticed in the bald guys have a tendency to get a lot more color because they don't have that protection when they get hit with
Thank you.
tubes. You know.
Thank you. That's one of my biggest things. Like, I say that a lot about every bald wrestler I say. I'm like, y'all get the most color. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Because, like, I guess it's where they ain't got no protection up there or whatever. And,
yeah.
like,
It's straight skin, so
it's just
and it's
straight down their
and it's
face.
right against the skull, so it's not like there's any give to it. You know, like an arm or something.
And it's straight down their face, and it just makes it 10 times better. I like the blood though. I'm not one that likes myself bleeding, but I like watching other people bleed. So
Fair enough.
I respect that. Yes, yes, that's probably bald people, and no offense, but the bigger guys, like the bigger,
Call me fat.
most. No,
You said no offense. What the fuck you insinuating, skinny moose?
I wouldn't really say you're
Hey,
fat. I'd
I'm
say you're
chubby hippo. Okay.
like chubby hippo. I'd say you're more of a muscular, like you're pretty muscular. I mean, like, but Slack though, when that man goes to fucking bleeding, that man can bleed,
Yeah.
and that's another one that can bleed. Like Hoodfoot, he's a big man and he can fucking bleed too. And by no means am I trying to put anybody on the spot. This is gonna come out bad, but me and another wrestler, Brian, was talking about it. And I was like, darker people, like African people, when they get cut open, they bleed fucking tremendously well. And some Hispanics bleed too. I mean, whites do, but if you think about it, I don't know. Like, we have one, he's a Hispanic. It might be a sicko play. But when he gets busted open, he bleeds fucking good. So I like any wrestler that's going to get in there and do it because obviously I can't. I have a permanent dent in my head. It's a permanent scar. And then I have too many concussions because of being stupid when I was younger. And now I can't take any hard blows to the head, so that kind of defeats me out of being a wrestler, which I've always wanted to do. But yeah, I took a actual baseball bat to the top of the head here, and I
Jesus.
dent a bat when I was a kid, and it was one of them aluminum ones, and now I have a permanent scar dent. So it goes like this, and it goes in, and then it just goes back out. On top of that, my nose won't let me because if I get hit too hard, the nose it'll kill me because my nose is basically fake, and then I have scoliosis and arthritis. So
Yeah. Don't wrestle.
I'm like, I'll pick up
What do
on
you
being a
do?
podcaster. I'm gonna give it a hell of a try though. I'm like, yeah, I can't wrestle. I don't want to, I got 2 kids and a wife, and I don't want to die. Although, you know, uh, would you ever consider having a flaming no rope bob worm match?
No.
Damn.
Um. Yeah. Sorry to disappoint you. Fire's too unpredictable. I rarely, if ever, use it. I think I can only think of twice it's been used, and once was Shadow WX because you can't not have Shadow WX blow his fireball. But we also had the spot to where when he did it, the people he was against held chairs up to deflect it, and it kind of went around the chairs. And then the other one
Shit.
was at the skate park. Maori set a tube on fire and then hit Dread with it. I knew it powderized, but the problem with fire is it's so unbelievably unpredictable. Like you can plan for days, but fire's gonna do whatever the fuck it wants. And then when
That's
somebody
true.
gets burned bad enough, that's not good. I mean, like we saw what happened with
North
North
Korean
Korean
assassin.
assassin. I mean, like that. I'm sure he didn't even take into account that his outfit was vinyl and would just melt into his skin. Like there's so many little things that could happen that you just don't think about. So unfortunately, no, I never really plan on that. I don't really enjoy a lot of fire just because I'm on the other side of it and I'm thinking about these guys' safety. So I
I
don't really
respect
fuck around with fire.
that. I mean, look at the Iron Sheik and him and Sabu's match with the other two when the Sheik got over like 70, 80% his body burned. So I
Yeah.
respect that. That's that's one of the best answers I've actually received. So yeah, I'll take that and run. Like I when it comes to me with fire, actually I have a burn on my arm. I've burnt myself multiple times. I think the first time I was introduced to fire was about 8, 9, 10 years old, and we lived in this old house, and my grandmother had the stove on, and she was cooking something, but also the oven was on. So I leaned up against the stove, not knowing it. When I pulled off, like my whole skin, where I got my tattoo at, the skin was like on the stove, and my arm was like stuck, and I
Yeah.
had to pull my arm off. And I'm like, yeah. And
See?
then
Fire. Unpredictable.
unpredictable. I've seen one of my buddies. Well, it was his fault, anyways, but he took one of them X cans and tried to make a blowtorch or whatever. Wind caught, came back, caught him on fire. Practically killed the boy.
I mean, I had a neighbor almost burn my whole fucking fence down because he accidentally bumped some chemical into his fucking fire and it blew up all over his backyard. I mean, just fuck fire. Fuck fire.
I feel like we even at a cookout. I've been around fire all my life, and I'm like, look, just because I said I wanted to be a fireman at one time, don't mean I actually want to do it. And fire, yeah, my mom's been in the house fire. I'm not too keen on fires. I was actually in boot camp when that went down, but I'm not too keen on fire, so I respect that. What is your hobbies when you're not dealing with wrestling?
I'm a horror movie junkie, and the worse the better. Like I watched the real bad stuff, like the stuff that like you're like, why the fuck would they make that? Like, have you ever been to a video store? You're probably too young for video stores, but then like going through the
Oh yeah,
browser and be like, that looks dumb as fuck. Who would watch that? I'm the guy that's watching that. So a lot of horror movies. I really enjoy camping. I do that a lot. Cooking, obviously, with my culinary stuff. Uh, yeah, that's about it. Collect records. Big music lover.
hi.
Used
You
to
a
be music
gamer?
for a long time. I've been writing some new music too. So
You a gamer?
yeah, yeah. I got me an Xbox. I play a lot of games on it, and I'm working on getting this computer of mine set up for Steam. Gonna fuck around with some of
Hi.
that shit too, but I got to get like a mouse and shit because it's just a laptop, but it's real powerful.
Hell yeah. Um, Me personally, I like hanging out with the little ones, hanging out with the old lady. I watch TV, not much. I more watch wrestling, but I'm going back through and watching Gotham again. Waiting for Terrifier 3 to drop. Um, I love horror movies. Um,
Watch Strange Darling. I watched it today. Jesus Christ, was it good?
I'm gonna have to watch it. I'm like you. I like my shit to be more intense, more brutal, more gruesome.
And The Substance.
The Substance. I'll have to
The
check them
Substance was
out.
the wildest thing I ever seen in fucking theaters. I can't believe they let that be in theaters. It's fucked up.
Have you have you heard anything on Slack's new horror movie coming out?
Yeah, I know about a couple film projects. Slack and I talk almost every day. Like I know about a lot of what because he's in the new Toxic Avenger too. They just got done
So
filming that, and then
yeah,
he's in Backwoods
that's
too.
because
Um,
I know he was talking about one, and I'm trying to find the release date on it.
there's one called Backwoods 2 that he's in, or Backwood, something like that. I believe they're in post production on that. Should be done pretty soon. Toxic Avenger, I wouldn't expect out till next year. But he did let me know that the documentary about his band, Eat the Turnbuckle, called "Stabbed in the Face." It's coming out very soon to some streaming services that you'll be able to watch it on. I have seen that one. He sent me a screener copy to check out, and it's very fucking good.
Yes, we're gonna have to check that out. So all of y'all that's watching, be sure to tune in and check out Slack shit. So kind of an odd question, which I think I pretty much know the answer, but does RPW have a main fan like ECW had the straw hat guy?
We did. Unfortunately, he passed away. He was a lot of people's like he was known at a lot of shows, but he was actually a personal friend of mine before I even promoted, and we did a lot of traveling and stuff together. And he lived in the area, and he was always front row and always right by the entrance. I'd
Piss
sit in
jug.
there. Piss Jug Mike. That was
Piss
that
jug.
was his buddy. That one hurt a lot. But yeah, he was our main guy. That was at every show.
I'd say either Piss Jug or I think they call him on Facebook Germ, the guy with all the tattoos on him, and does like the donut reviews.
Oh, Germ. Well, see, Germ. He lives in Chicago, so he's at all our Chicago shows. I used to have a horror podcast with Germ. a
Oh
lot of times when
shit!
a lot of times when we're in Chicago, we'll stay with Germ. He's a good guy.
He seems chill as fuck. I have him on Facebook. He's got a lot of tattoos.
Yes, he does.
So, in the next few years, what can we start expecting out of XPW if you're okay with announcing it?
Um, I don't know what XPW is up to.
Or fuck RPW. God damn it! It's right here in front of
You
me.
have to ask Rob about that.
I'm sorry. God, I,
No, you're good. Um, expect us
I'm
in a
gonna
lot
beat
of new
myself up
markets.
for the rest of the night.
We're definitely catching a lot more eyes than we used to. We have people reaching out like, "Hey, come here," or "Hey, come here," or "I got a venue you can run out here." And it's starting to get to the point where our shows are getting big enough to where it's feasible and affordable. So you'll see us. Like I said at the beginning of next year, we're going to be hitting 3 new markets. Vegas being one of them. We already kind of talked about that. Um, yeah, we're going to be expanding out. Working with some new companies too, making some more relationships, so it makes it a little easier for us to get around. And yeah, I've been working hard at that getting overseas thing. You know that's looking like it's a lot more feasible than I thought, and hopefully we get that worked out. There's a lot of really exciting stuff on the horizon. I've been working pretty tirelessly on it in the background. The whole thing with like not running as much over this last year and a half was I wanted every show we ran to be as big as humanly possible, and I would end up spreading myself so thin if it wasn't, like along with
I understand.
weapons collecting and all that shit.
I understand that. I'm sorry about that. I'm just.
Oh no, I was busting your balls. I knew what you meant.
I guess it's one of those days I'm having an off day, but
You know
whose
what?
idea was it for RPW versus POR? Was it yours or JJ's, or whose idea was it in general?
I think JJ had floated it to. Actually, no, it was Piss Jug Mike originally. Um,
Oh shit!
that hooked me and JJ up, and that was like years ago. And we had talked about doing something at some point, and then it kind of fell to the wayside. And then he had mentioned something like a year and a half ago, and at the time I had my whole year like kind of planned out, and you can only go down to the compound, in the summer. So then I think it was me. I was like thinking about the skate park show, like what kind of weird, goofy show are we gonna do this year? Because I always try to get one in a year. And I
Yeah.
was like, it'd be really cool to go down to the POR compound. So I hit up JJ, and he immediately was like, "Yeah, fucking let's do it." And I ran into JJ recently in Detroit. He really wants us to come back, so maybe we'll get going down there again. We had a lot of fun while we were down there. I'm pretty sure I saw a ghost.
I mean, that fucking Slack match was probably one of the best matches I've seen in a long ass time. Like, that match went on for
We
like
hit someone with a
45
car.
minutes. Dude, I literally thought Slack. I was like, good thing this is wrestling before he gets charged with like manslaughter or some shit.
I
That
mean, but
was intense.
even back to the fire thing, I shut that shit down at POR. They wanted to do a full body burn and come off that dude's roof, and I was just like, "No, man, let's not do that at one of your shows."
Why? I mean, like, I guess that's where I get the question for fire from. Is like, a lot of people hate fire, but a lot of people use fire. And
Listen, if
you're
if I'm
right.
not
Oh,
responsible for it, like if I'm just watching it, sure, fine, cool, that's really cool. If I'm the one that put those people in there and said yes to doing it, I'm not going to be able to live with myself if they get fucked up, you know, because it's my fault that it happened because I said don't do that because I didn't say
I
don't do that.
respect that. Like, you never know what you're going to get out of fire. And he's right. You never know what you're going to get. Fire's just. If fire could be a person, it'd be the worst person on earth. I mean, come on, let's get serious now. Fire's
I've met a
unpredictable.
couple fires.
We know what fire has done to people, and even Masada got burnt at King of the Kill 2, and it burnt half of his face, even though he was like, I'm okay. It really didn't bother me. I'm like,
King of the Death Match, we do King of the Kill.
Dude, yeah, that's what I was talking about when Masada done
Yeah, you said King of the
God,
Kill. It's King of the Death Match.
God, I,
It's fine.
California,
I'm busting your balls.
you're fine, you're fine. I'm used to interviewing wrestlers, so you're only like my second promoter I ever interviewed.
Is it different?
And I was on TikTok. Yeah, you're only my second one, and I was on TikTok, and I was like, let's see how this goes. You know, my first one was Kevin, my second one's you, and my third one's Gary Emmett. So the one from AWR. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I I don't know how to interview promoters. I guess it's where like y'all are the like top dogs and y'all are the boss, like y'all run things. I get kind of nervous
Don't be nervous, man.
and I get camera shy. So
Well,
what was
you're in the
going
wrong job then, man. You're on camera interviewing people. You can't be nervous and camera shy.
I guess it's more of the promoters that gives me like that gets me like that because I'll sit down, I interview any wrestler. Like I've had Necro, Masada, Mr. Danger, Takeda, Mickey Knuckles, and I've never really been like this. But I get in front of a promoter, and I guess because I know like when the if the interview was good. And I need somebody to vouch for me. A lot of promoters will be like, "Hey, yeah, you're my boy, you work for me, but go check out him and see how he does an interview with you." And I guess that's one thing that really affects me, is that lingers in the back of my mind. So, what was going through your mind when Joe Bateman and Tommy Vendetta used to dry ice in King of the Kill, the first one?
I mean, who do you think got on the dry ice?
Seriously?
Yeah, it's not like they show up with the weapons they're going to use. I have to provide that shit.
I thought that. Well, some of the boys bring their own, so I thought really one of the other guys brought it. One of the guys brought
No.
it in.
If I remember correctly, I had a referee go pick it up.
Hey, fuck. See, I've
They
never been
had it
around.
at
I
a
mean,
party store down the road.
I have used dry ice, but I'm not too keen on that shit.
We've used it twice. I think the other time was maybe three times. We had Big Joe versus Murdoch, and they used it.
So this one's probably going to make you laugh,
Okay.
and I'm probably going to embarrass myself. But can you tell us how the fuck El Flacco managed to get the trunk of a car?
Um, he's a mysterious luchador type. I don't really know what's going on through the mind of El Schlacko. He just kind of popped up out of there.
As big as he is, and as muscular as he is, I would have never thought that I'd see El Flacco in the back of a trunk, especially something that small. And that car's small in general.
Yeah, they drove it in with him in there too.
Damn.
They drove it. They drove it. That he entered. JJ entered driving in that car, and El Schlacko was already in the trunk.
Give me 1 second. My little one woke up.
You're good.
Um, would you would you ever do a mixed international tag team like our boy, like Americans versus? I know you've done it before, but our boys versus Americans.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it before. I'll do it again. The thing with international is that you just got to remember there's international flights involved, so that doesn't get
Yeah,
cheap. If you want to make it a tag team, that's two international flights. So,
they
um,
get pricey.
yeah. So I mean, the more people show up to our shows, the better I can book them and bring in more expensive talent, including plane tickets and stuff like that. You know, uh, this one coming up, we got somebody coming in from Japan and the UK, so we're doing our best.
And then this question is probably the best one that I've asked so far. If you had to restart RPW with the knowledge that you have, would you do anything different? If so, what and why?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot I do different. one I wouldn't launch during a pandemic. That was that was a fucking nightmare. I mean, we had already been working on the company for I think like 6 months, 7 months before the pandemic even hit, maybe eight. But it made it really difficult to be doing those. Like when it got really bad, there's a wrestling school where I live that's owned by CK3 and Trey Miguel called Skull and Bones. And just because we had IWTV and we wanted to put stuff out for the fans, we were doing like no fan shows out of there that we called Slamdemics. That we were just doing at the school. We'd gussy the school up, and it would just be the wrestlers, and we
Yeah.
let I think like 20 people in that were like our closest friends or fans, and watch it just to put some content out. But that was really rough. Um, I would definitely be a lot less trusting of certain people. I've definitely learned some hard lessons on trusting people I shouldn't have. And I mean that's mostly it, because I think a lot of like what makes a good promoter is going through some trials and tribulations and like learning how to deal with it and not letting it fuck you all up, because
That's
it's
true.
real easy to have like something, because something's gonna go wrong no matter what. Like every single show I put on, something goes wrong no matter what. It's gonna happen. You just gotta be ready to roll with the punches, and that's like the hardest thing. Or that was something that had to be tempered into me over time doing these shows. So I don't. I think getting some lumps is actually good for you. So I think that just the trusting people and not doing it during a pandemic would have been the things I would have done differently.
I understand that. Is there anyone on the deathmatch scene that you have your eye on but not yet worked?
Yeah, there's quite a few. Some are just travel things, and some of them are availability things, and you know um, some people are particular on where they want to work. But there's
I
definitely some
understand
people.
that. Yeah,
Um,
I know some guys that's like that. That's
yeah, I mean,
understandable.
there's certain guys that work for this company, but they won't work for this company, or vice versa, and all that. And I mean, a lot of times it doesn't have to do with the company, but maybe the loyalties they have to other companies, things like that. I mean, it's a lot of chess behind the scenes.
I'm gonna have to get a part two with you because I feel like I I didn't do too good on this one, so
Oh,
I'll make up for it.
you were fine, man.
I'll
Yeah, I
definitely
mean,
make up
just let
for
me
it.
know when you want to do it. We'll get it set up.
All right. You watch a lot of his shows, don't you?
Oh boy,
You know who
corrupt.
that is? You know who that is? That's the owner of RPW. That's my little girl. She is a huge deathmatch fan.
She's adorable.
Huge. Thank you. Say hi. Say hi. He knows Slack. You like Slack, don't you? You like Slack, don't you? She's 10 months old, about to be 11 months, and finally she's getting her first tooth in.
That's exciting, man.
That's my little baby girl. I've always wanted a little girl. I got a little boy, and he acts so much like me when I was younger. And then I
At
got a
least you
little
know what to
girl.
look forward to. Just keep them away from baseball bats and stoves.
Yeah, he's got one of them fake ones that you get on Halloween,
Yeah,
and he has literally beat me in my ribs until they started turning blue. And he's only 4, and I'm like, when you get older, I'm gonna just put you in a fucking death match.
skinnier moose.
Yes, skinnier miss. And then this one, she's always watching wrestling with me or doing something with me. That's my little partner.
She's cute.
Yeah, you ain't up yet. But I do thank you for your time, sir.
No problem.
And anytime you want to come back or